Welcome to the show. It's Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We interview local prominent professionals here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. On what? Well, their area of expertise, of course. I'm the host of the show, Matt Cather, and joining me on today's show, great to have him back. Always a pleasure. It's Mark Underwood, a personal injury attorney. Mark Underwood, I should say. Before we get to Mr. Underwood, you can find him online at underwoodlawoffice.com. That's underwoodlawoffice.com. 844-UNDERWOOD is the number you can reach him at. That's 844-UNDERWOOD. And I always like to say, of course, his office is located in McKinney, Texas. Sir, welcome to the show. It's great to have you back on, Mark.
Matt, it's always great to be here with you. I'm looking outside, seeing a bright, beautiful day here in Dallas-Fort Worth. See my swimming pool sparkling where I've been working on it all week. And it started reminding me of swimming pool liability.
Well, that's going to be the topic of a conversation today. I'm looking forward to it. And, man, it is a beautiful day here in the Dallas-Fort Worth. It's that time of year. I'm really excited. I just love this weather.
Yeah. It's, in the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to get our pool going for the summer. We've had a little trouble finding people to do pool maintenance. So if you have any pool maintenance guys on Ask the Experts, please tell them to give me a call. So I've been teaching myself how to do a little pool maintenance. And every time I look down at the swimming pool while out there putting in chemicals and, taking the leaves out of the pool and getting it ready, I started thinking back about 15 years ago, Matt, to a case I had involving swimming pool liability. Can I tell you about it?
Let's get right into it, Mark. Let's hear about it.
Okay, so 15 years ago, I had a case where two 2-year-old boys, twins, identical twins, drowned in a swimming pool. And it was a really, really tragic set of circumstances and a really complicated set of facts in determining who was at fault. And what had happened in this case was single mom, husband and wife had gotten divorced, husband had moved out of the house, and the swimming pool they had out behind their house was an above-ground swimming pool. And that's important. I'll explain why here in a little bit. So they had an above-ground swimming pool, and they had built a deck around that above-ground swimming pool, and that deck connected onto the back of the house, and where there was a door, so you could go out of the back of the house onto the deck, which was around the above-ground pool. And the pool level was about 2 to 3 feet lower than the level when you came right out of the house. So they had a couple of stairs going from the upper level of the deck down to the lower level of the deck, which was around the swimming pool. And where the two decks, the upper level went down to the lower level, they were using a baby gate that you would buy at Walmart to make it safer, to keep the children off the top deck and or on the top deck and not down to the bottom deck. And one day in January or February, of course, January, February, the pool wasn't being maintained. It was dark. It was black. The pool was only partially filled, and cold because it was cold out. And one day in January, mom's taking care of these twin 2-year-old boys, and I did some research during the case, and I found out that twin 2-year-old boys are the children that are most likely amongst all the other children, including teenagers. Twin 2-year-old boys are the most likely to be injured. And why is that? It's because twins, especially if they're boys, and when they're 2 years old, they're always exploring things, but twin boys work in tandem. So they have their built-in playmate or their built-in partner in crime, and the twin 2-year-old boys, get into stuff together. They work in tandem. So the mom was taking care of the boys that day, and the mailman came, and she was taking care of the boys in the house, and the door to the deck was closed, the sliding glass door. Door to the deck was closed. She was taking care of the kids inside the house because it was January, and the mailman came. And when the mailman came, she ran outside to get her mail, and when she did, she saw her father, who lived across the street, out getting his mail also. So she stopped to say hi for just a minute, just a couple of minutes talking to her father. She headed back in the house, and when she got back in the house, she couldn't find her sons. And she looked in the family room, didn't see them, looked in their bedrooms, didn't see them, looked around the house. And, of course, everywhere she looked where she didn't find them, she became more frantic. And she ran out onto the deck, didn't see them out on the deck, looked down at the black, dirty water in the swimming pool and saw one of her boys floating in the pool. Of course, she immediately jumped in, pulled the child out, began screaming very loudly, started doing mouth-to-mouth on the child, and right there on the pool deck. And her father came running, and her father started helping, gave her a break in CPR and started performing CPR. And as they're performing CPR on the one child, on the one boy, they realize the other boy is nowhere to be seen. And she immediately looks to the pool, realizes that's the only place he could be. She jumps in the black, dirty water and finds the child on the bottom of the swimming pool. And so they pulled that boy out up onto the pool deck and begin doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on both of the children. They, of course, had called 911. Ambulance showed up. They took the boys to the local hospital, clinging to life. And very quickly, the local hospital flew the boys to a major trauma center. And ultimately, the boys lived, but they were in intensive care for about 2 months, and they had suffered some brain damage. Fortunately, the water being cold actually helped them to survive. And they came to me wanting to know if anyone was at fault. So we started looking at a negligence claim and a premises liability claim. And I'll tell you, I'll explain to you, if you want, I'll explain who was at fault and what ended up happening in the case.
Yeah, and of course, guys, real quick, we're talking with attorney Mark Underwood. He's a personal injury attorney here in the DFW. His office is located in McKinney, Texas. UnderwoodLawOffice.com is the website, UnderwoodLawOffice.com, 844-UNDERWOOD or 972-535-6377. But 844-UNDERWOod is a good number to reach him at as well. Obviously, an incredible story. Great to hear that they both survived that. But what is premises liability? Kind of break that down for us.
So, when it comes to swimming pools, you typically have a few different possible types of claims. One is negligence. One is premises liability that you see all the time. Negligence, most people seem to understand. It's premises liability seems to need to be explained to most clients. And premises liability is the cause of action you assert for a dangerous condition on the property causing injury. And typically, in most states, including Texas, you have to prove an unreasonably dangerous condition existed on the premises, and the person in charge of the premises, most of the time the owner, had either actual or constructive notice of the unreasonably dangerous condition. Actual notice is they actually knew there was something wrong. Constructive notice is the unreasonably dangerous condition existed for such a long period of time that the owner of the premises knew or should have known that there was a dangerous condition. So that's basically what you're looking at as far as the causes of action. In the case that I described for you, we actually had well, we investigated it. And when we investigated it, here's what we found out. Number one, the deck that was built around the above-ground swimming pool was not built according to code. And, of course, most building codes, the underlying premise of most building codes and, or any construction code is safety, right? So the building code's intended to promote safety. And we looked at the deck that had been created and found out that they had not gotten any building permits. They had not built it according to code. Also, of course, we try to go out to the site whenever we have an accident case, whether it's swimming pool or a car wreck. We always try to go to the site. So, we went out to the home to look at it, and we saw the deck, we investigated it, found out it wasn't up to code. But we also saw the gate, the baby gate that had been used to by the homeowners to separate the upper deck from the lower deck where the swimming pool was. And it was just one of those typical expansion baby gates that are made out of plastic.
Yeah.
And friction is basically what keeps those gates into place, right? Just the pressure on whatever posts you're putting in between. And the gate was lying there, and we saw the gate was in pretty poor shape. And we asked how long they had that gate, and they'd had it for only about 8 or 9 months. They'd got it at the beginning of the previous summer and had been using it out there on the deck until, from April till about January. And of course, it was in an area of the country that has a lot of freezing and thawing. And what had happened was being exposed to the heat of the summer and the cold of the winter and everything in between, including rain and snow and sleet, had deformed the gate. And I decided that it might be a good idea to go buy a new one of those gates. I went to Walmart where they had bought the gate, looked at it, and saw that there was nothing on the box that gate came in that said don't use outside, or if you do use it outside, don't use it outside on a permanent basis. And there were pictures on the box showing people using it outside in the elements. And it was just a terribly wrong way to use that gate if you're using it outside. So we actually sued Walmart and the distributor and the manufacturer of the baby gate regarding their warnings related to the product. We were able to show that, if you're going to use this gate outside, you need to warn about it, or warn, really they needed to warn people not to use it outside. And of course, there was also some potential liability on the mom because, she did leave the children unattended for just a few brief minutes. And we pursued premises liability claim, like you were asking me about, a negligence claim, and a products liability claim. Premises liability against the mom, the products liability case against the manufacturer of the baby, also premises liability against the builder and the designer of the deck. And we're ultimately able to get a recovery that allowed the children to get the speech therapy and the educational therapy that they needed to mostly, not completely, but mostly overcome their injuries that they had suffered.
All right. Well, Mark, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to take a quick break, guys. And I just want to bounce out real quick. 1 minute. We got so much to cover. I have to, but otherwise we'd stay around. Quick break, and when we get back, we'll pick up where we left off with personal injury attorney Mark Underwood. Today we're talking about swimming pool liabilities, a very interesting story he just shared with us and that he's dealt with before, a case that he's dealt with before. So we'll pick up on the other side. Stay tuned. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. Welcome back to the show. It's the experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We interview local prominent professionals in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We're talking with personal injury attorney Mark Underwood. Great to have him back on the show today. Real quick, 844-UNDERWOOD. That's 844-UNDERWOOD. That's the number you can reach him at. Toll-free number. You could also give him a call at 972-535-6377. It's 972-535-6377. Either one, totally fine. Either way, they'd love to hear from you. UnderwoodLawOffice.com is the website if you want to check that out. UnderwoodLawOffice.com is where you can get some information as well. Very interesting case that you dealt with in the past, Mark, and we'll kind of pick up where we left off. In this situation or general, because we're talking about swimming pool liabilities, either in this situation or just in general for somebody that's facing this, who is responsible for pool safety?
So, hey, great question. And really the answer is whoever is, especially when it comes to children, it's the owner of the swimming pool and whoever is out there watching. You know, in that case that I described for you, we had to hire experts, and one of the experts was a pool safety guy, and he had been in the industry consulting about the design and maintenance for safety purposes for many, many years. And we discussed it with him, and were able to prove the claims that we had set out to prove. Well, fast forward about 4 years later, perhaps, and I bought a house with a swimming pool. You know, before that, I didn't have a house with a swimming pool.
Yeah.
But I called the expert up, and I said, hey, look, I got a house with a swimming pool, and I want to and I have a young child. At that point in time, my child was probably 4 years old, and I wanted to make my swimming pool as safe as possible for my 4-year-old child. And I sent the swimming pool expert pictures and had a long conversation with him, and he made some very specific recommendations to improve the safety of my home swimming pool. You want me to tell you what they were?
I'd love to hear it. Absolutely. I'm sure the listeners would too.
So some real specific things that he told us to do is, number one, the alarm on our house, he wanted us to make it so that it would chime or beep when somebody went out the door. So at our house, whenever anybody opens a door, especially the doors leading to the pool, you hear a beep all throughout the entire house. So the idea was, if my 4-year-old should decide to go out the back door towards the swimming pool in the middle of the night or on a weekend when somebody's in a different part of the house, we would know somebody's going out the door. So that was a really good idea, and we did it.
Yeah, I like that.
And the other thing he told us to do is to install locks high up on the door. So instead of just your ordinary lock in the doorknob, we put these locks that you have to pull out and turn to be able to unlock them, and they're about probably 6 feet up on the door. So it would make it very difficult for a young child to get out to get up to the lock, to undo the lock, and then get out the door. So I thought that was a pretty good idea also. So check, we did that too. Another thing that they recommended was a mesh fencing around the pool. And it's especially good if you have young children. So looked at that, said, well, hey, that's a pretty good idea. It's not terribly expensive. Check, we did that. A couple of other things that he suggested, which was, basic but extremely good, is number one, teach your child to swim as early as possible. We had already begun teaching our child to swim, but we made sure that he could swim well by the time we moved into the house. Another thing they suggested is, especially in winter when the pool's not being used, is to actually cover your swimming pool. And that was a good idea also. And when our son was young, we did that in the winter also. So all of those were good, easy, common sense things to do for your swimming pool to make it safer. But another one of the things they really suggested was, when a child is out there swimming, somebody needs to be the designated lifeguard. One person needs to be responsible for safety, even if it's at your own house, and become the designated lifeguard. Of course, that designated lifeguard needs to be sober. So those were all things that we started doing around our swimming pool to make it safer for our young son.
Mark, we got a couple minutes left on the show, so I want to get to this. In a situation, if somebody had a swimming pool accident, what evidence is needed to prove liability in that swimming pool accident?
Well, any security camera videos are extremely valuable pieces of evidence. And it seems like almost everywhere you go nowadays, people have video cameras, especially public swimming pools.
For
so
sure.
The first thing you need to look for is any video. And you need to ask the person or the building that has the security video to maintain it, to keep it. If they'll give you a copy, that would be great. Many times people are willing to give a concerned parent a copy of the video early on. Once they've spoken to lawyers, of course, that opportunity goes away many times. So security videos are extremely important. The second thing that's really important are the witnesses that were there. The third most important thing is, especially for lawyers, is to go to the site and look around.
Mm-hmm.
If we had just, on the case that I described for you, if we had just handled it from our office, we would have never have seen how poorly designed and constructed the deck was. We would have never seen the deformed plastic gate that should have never been used outside in the elements for any extended period of time.
Mark,
yes.
Unfortunately, that's all the time. That's a good spot to wrap up on those. So I just want to get the information out real quick, guys. It's underwoodlawoffice.com. That's underwoodlawoffice.com. 844-UNDERWOOD if you want to reach out to personal injury attorney Mark Underwood. I hate to wrap it up, but always great to have you on the show, Mark. We'll do it again here soon, okay?
Hey, Matt, I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me on again, and keep your pool safe.
Yes, sir. Great words, and hey, we'll do it again next week. Everybody have a great weekend.